welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a really profound piece of writing. It's part philosophy, part personal story, and it's all about investigating the very idea of you. It's a journey that really tries to take apart that I you think of as yourself, one idea at a time. Right from the jump, the text throws us this absolute curveball, and it's meant to be a little disorienting, you know? We're not really in a physical room. We're inside a mind that's looking at itself, examining its own walls, and realizing they aren't what they seem to be at all. And this is the big puzzle we're going to be exploring. The narrator here isn't just feeling a bit lost. They're questioning the very ground they're standing on. Think about it. Is that I at the center of all your thoughts a real thing? Or is it just a quirk of grammar? A convenient story our language forces us to tell ourselves? Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're going to follow the narrator's path through these 5 key stages. We'll start with that initial question, look at the tools they use to investigate it, see what happens when it all falls apart, and then explore the wild conclusion they come to. So let's start where the narrator does, in this stark white room. But you have to understand, this room isn't just a place. It's basically a laboratory where the idea of the self is about to be put under a microscope. This is such a radical twist. The narrator isn't saying that we are lying when we say I. No, they're suggesting the lie is baked right into our language. The very way we form sentences, subject, verb, object, it tricks us into believing there's this solid, separate I doing all the thing. All right, so how do you even begin to tackle a problem that huge? Well, our narrator chooses 2 very specific tools. One is deeply intellectual, which they call the latter, and the other is incredibly personal, called the wound. First up, let's talk about the wound. The narrator lays out 3 kinds. There's the kind that heals, and the kind that leaves a scar, but they're not really interested in those. They focus on this 3rd kind, the wound that doesn't just mark you, it fundamentally changes you. It becomes part of who you are. And this is absolutely crucial. The goal here isn't to fix the pain or get over it. The idea is to actually use the wound as a new lens, a new way of seeing the world. The wound itself becomes the method of investigation. Okay, so that's the wound. The second tool is the ladder. And this is an intellectual framework built from the work of 4 incredible thinkers. We've got the Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher Simone Weil, the poet Emily Dickinson, and the logician Ludwig Wittgenstein. Each one provides a different rung for the narrator to climb. From Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, the narrator gets this discipline of stoicism. It's the practice of just accepting that everything is constantly changing, and that what we call loss is really just another word for change. Then, from the French philosopher Simone Weil, comes this powerful idea of attention as a kind of spiritual practice. We're not talking about just focusing on something, but a kind of pure, selfless observation that can almost make the observer dissolve. From the amazing poet Emily Dickinson, the narrator gets a strategy. You can't just stare truth right in the face. It's too much. It'll overwhelm you. You have to come at it from an angle, indirectly, using fragments and hints. And finally, from the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, we get the central metaphor for this whole project. The idea is you use these philosophical propositions, like steps on a ladder, to climb higher. But, and this is the key part, once you get to the top, you have to be willing to kick the ladder away to see what's really there. So, we've got the wound, and we've got the ladder. It seems like a very structured, almost clinical investigation. But then, the whole thing just cracks wide open. 2 words, that's all it takes. I lied, and the whole project just shatters. The narrator basically confesses that all this calm philosophical exploration has been leaving something out. It's been a cover for a raw, painful story that was hiding right under the surface. And suddenly, that neat, tidy structure breaks apart into these raw fragments of memory. A kitchen with yellow walls, a partner's reaction to a cancer diagnosis, a single sentence that changes everything. The abstract problem of the self just collides, hard, with the very real, messy business of a life falling apart. To even try and describe this state, the narrator goes back to Simone Weil. This isn't just suffering. Suffering is pain that might have a point, a reason. This is what Weil called affliction. It's pain plus the total collapse of meaning. The why just evaporates, and all you're left with is the what. So, after this incredibly raw confession, the whole journey changes. The goal isn't to solve the problem of the self anymore. It's about figuring out how to live inside that wound, how to actually inhabit this new fractured reality. And this leads to a completely new understanding. The wound, the break, the affliction, it turns out it's not a flaw that needs to be fixed. It's actually a point of contact. It's the very opening that lets you touch a reality that's bigger than the old solid self you thought you were. So where does all of this end up? Well, as you've probably guessed by now, it's not with some neat, tidy answer. It ends with a complete reframing of the question we started with. The narrator takes a moment to think about how each of their 4 guides died. And this isn't meant to be morbid. It's about grounding this very abstract journey in the real, concrete limit of a human life. It's where philosophy meets its final test. And here it is, the core insight of the whole thing. The point was never to find an answer to what is the self. The point was that by living inside that question, the problem itself just dissolves. It's like putting sugar in water. It doesn't vanish, it becomes part of the water itself. And that's where we end, with this final, really profound thought. Maybe consciousness, maybe life, isn't about finding a stable self to be. Maybe it's about being the constant motion of the question itself. It's not an answer to be found, but an asking to be lived.